Nah itu.
Ya udah. Kagak bisa.
Coba semoga bisa.
Enggak.
Cek kegedean. Cek. Cek kegedean anjir. Cek. Nah itu.
Ya udah. Kagak bisa.
Sebenarnya enggak banget aja. Speaker terekam. Cek, cek 1 2. Cek 1 2.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and fellow participants, good morning and welcome to SF Updates and Brown Bag Collaboration. My name is Sadinda Umaira, and it is an honor to be your master of ceremony today's event. Today's discussion is not just about learning, it's about challenging norms, breaking barriers, and discovering new perspectives. So grab your favorite snacks, get comfortable, and let's dive into this exciting discussion together. The Excellency Bapak Chaidar S. Bamualin, PhD, Secretary of UIII, Professor Dian Mashita, PhD, Dean of Faculty of Economic and Business, Bapak Philips J. Permonte, PhD, Dean of Faculty of Sciences, and Dr. Andas Dadi Darmadi, MA. He is Head of Media and Communication. And then Bapak Rizky Wisnontoro, PhD, Head of Master of Finance in Sustainable Finance. And then Bapak Teguh Yudo Wicaksono, PhD, Head of PhD in Economics. And Bapak Sirojuddin Arif, PhD, Head of MA in Political Science. Along with all of our esteemed lecturers and fellow participants who are here to contribute their insightful experiences, thank you for being part of this collaboration. Before we dive into the topic, I'd like to invite our speakers and our moderator, Bapak Rifki Muna, Ibu Felia Salim, and Bapak Yose Rizal Damuri, and all of the Dean of the staff to have a photo session together in front of the screen. Yeah. Yeah. Today's session engaging critical subject, the intersection of politics, ESG, social and governance, and public participation. This is more than just a theoretical discussion. It's an opportunity to examine how governance, sustainability, and innovation can come together to drive meaningful changes. So after the discussion, we will have an interactive discussion. So don't hold back, your voice matters. Now, to officially open today's discussion, It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Rifki Muna, who will deliver the welcoming speech and lead today's discussion. Dr. Rifki Muna earned his PhD in Defense and Security Analysis from Cranfield University at the Royal Military College of Sciences in the United Kingdom and an MA in Defense Studies from the Australian Defence Force Academy. Before joining UIII, Dr. Rifki had a distinguished 30-year career with the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, focusing on international security and defense issues. His expertise has been instrumental in shaping political development and facilitating consultations with the Indonesian governments and civil society organizations. Dr. Rifki, the floor is yours.
Very good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Well, Trump is back. The others say that I will be back, and it's really back. Okay, well, distinguished friends, and also speakers here that already arrived very early with us together here. We have Ibu Felia Salim, and also Papa Dr. Yose Rizal Damuri. Well, it is my honor to welcome you all to attend this FS update. Some questioning what is FS update. FS, huh? SF update, FSF, SF update. Okay, yeah. SF update. Sustainable finance update. And these traditions for us to have a program like SF update is very important for us to discuss any crucial matters related to the subject that we are learning within the nexus of dynamics, whether it is internationally as well as locally. So I'm happy to see that this FS update, together with other updates that we have at the Faculty of Social Science, which is what we have in social science one? Brown bag series, I don't know which number is the FS update that we have, but I'm counting, if I'm not misunderstood, it's about something about maybe 14 or 15 series for today. And I think it is a good tradition that we should continue to develop as well as to strengthen in the future to be able to address the crucial matters not only for Indonesia, the subject that will empower the students to learn on the issues of sustainability as well as on climate change, and I think that's one of the purpose why we do this. And triple IU, they call it so Felia, we call it triple IU is for Universitas Islam International Indonesia. To make it easier, this is university which has many eyes, we have other universities here, Universitas Indonesia with only one eye. In Jogja, there are another university with two eyes, and we have three eyes, here. International Islamic University. We have a joke in this area of Depok, because we have two universities. We say that a university which have one eye is already very good. Universitas Indonesia, So your university which have three eyes, will be better than university which only have one eye, Kind of motivation. The other things that I need to share also to, Pausi already here for several times. For Felia is for the first time, and one of the advantages for this campus that this campus is being conducted, the education process is conducted in English, and this is the only English-speaking university in this country, in Indonesia, with the level of studies is actually graduate university. And this campus, many people, even though very close, they don't know that. Many people assume that this campus is a private university because it look grande from the outside and also hopefully grande inside. So, but this campus is a state university, Universitas Negeri, and we are also member of the what the so-called PTNBH. PTNBH. To say in English, PTNBH is the university which have its own legal status, comparing to the previous system that we have. Currently, nationally, we have 22 university with the status of PTNBH, perguruan tinggi berbadan hukum. And Triple IU is the youngest members of that PTNBH universities, and we have involved in several processes of different kind of deliberations and also summit meeting among the PTNBH in many other universities. So, well, the topic that we have today, I think it is very timing for us to discuss, because when Donald Trump re-elected to become the POTUS, President of the United States, I think internationally they are very concerned about that. Internationally, we become concerned because in the past, Donald Trump decided to withdraw from the Paris Agreement. And the consequences is huge. But interestingly, just this week, President Biden, which is actually still going on for the COP meeting in Baku, Azerbaijan, he restated the commitment for the climate change, but President Biden mentioned that just in the last days of his presidency. Then Trump will back to the White House, and we don't know what actually will happen. But of course, we know that it will have an impact to the what might be something like the geopolitics of climate change or the geopolitics of sustainability, and it will have impact. Hopefully, we can also discuss on how the governance issues, international governance issues of sustainability. And I think that would be two important aspects. The third one would be, as far as I understood, is about what is the positions of the global south, with regard to the recoming of Donald Trump into the U.S. presidency, which has impact, of course, greatly to the international system. And for the two speakers, I just would like to state that Triple IU, we have students that come from almost 40 countries, which is mostly come from the global south. So I think our discussion today would be very crucial for us to address that. And it is also our concern, whether it is at the global level, but also looking at the impact to our region and our respective countries. I think that would be an area that we will discuss today. So again, I would like to welcome to all of the two distinguished speakers, and also to everyone, colleagues who have been here. We have Ibu Dekan, the Dean of Social Economy. We have the Dean of Faculty of Social Science also here, and Secretary of University, Pak Haidir Pak Mualim, and several others, and well, I think that would be great for us to have a session today, and we can continue for the discussion. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and let's start our discussion today. would be better if we start by reciting Bismillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Syukran kathiran. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, well, I think I remember that the announcer was saying that I'm opening up this session, then continue with the discussion, and it is, well, I also being tasked, to moderate for this session. And, well, let me start. I will start by, well, the topic of course, this is Trump back, as I said in my first word, and what will be the impact to sustainability. We have two distinguished speakers, which is actually I don't need to explain the two speakers one by one, but I would like to start very shortly. Dr. Jose Rizal Damuri is the executive director of CSIS Indonesia, Center for Strategic and International Studies. Well, CSIS in Indonesia is an independent national private institution for research. There is no connection with CSIS in the United States, but they are good friends, yeah, they're good friends. So, because CSIS is friend to anyone across the epistemic communities globally. Well, CSIS already changed the name into Center for Strategic and Islamic Studies, since we set up at UIII. So, in CSIS, for those who don't really aware, actually, CSIS has also contributed substantial numbers of the books to our library. So if you go to the second floor, in the right side, you will see the corner of CSIS, CSIS corner. So thank you for that. We really did for that. Yes. So, well, as an addition, we have also our dean at the Faculty of Social Science, that he was also the executive director at CSIS before Dr. Jose Damuri become the AD, or executive director of CSIS. So we are very much connected. We are, well, we fall in love with each other actually between IIIU and SSIS. So, Dr. Jose Rizal, thank you very much for your coming, and we look forward for your presentation, and I think we give you time for 20 minutes, yeah, to present the topic, and we really look forward to that. Time is yours, please. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Rifki Munaf. Good morning, selamat pagi, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's good to be back here at UIII. I've been here several times, including also once to have a lecture. I think it's I think 2 years ago, Bu Dian, yeah, perhaps in this faculty of economics as well. Yeah, and really good to be back here. Pak Rifki Muna already introduced me as an executive director of CSIS Indonesia, and CSIS Indonesia, although we do have good relations with CSIS in the United States, but we are more prominent because we are here in Indonesia, and also we are here in Southeast Asia and East Asia, and this region is basically most vibrant regions in the world. So we are a very prominent, and we do have more connections with UIII than with the CSIS and at Washington. Well, again, it's very. I agree with Pak Rifki Munar. This is very timely discussions on the Trump re-elections. And so when I was asked to discuss or to have a presentation here, I agree to come here. And then although I might say that my presentations might not be on sustainability, but rather I'm going to take more a broader perspective of Trump re-elections and the implications to economic issues rather than focusing on the sustainability alone. And since I do have 20 minutes, Pak Rifki Muna, and I have to spend those 20 minutes, I will start basically from the broader context of the global geopolitical and geoeconomic issues which might be related to the Trump re-elections and the implications to economy. And I hope it would also open up a discussion, further discussions on sustainability that I believe Bu Felia will take more a detailed approach, more in-depth approach. So let me start by looking at the global, the current. This is not my. This is not my presentations. Oh no, this is not my presentation actually. Yeah. All right. Oh yang bawah ya. Ah, okay. The my presentation is called. I have problems. I don't know where to. Ya, oke deh. Tolong bantuin aja deh ya. Habis. Ya, susah padahal lebih. Well, let me start by looking at what happens trends of global political and economic environment. The international political and economic environments have been poised or uh, have been shaped by several trends, long terms and mega trends that might also shape the global economic environment in the future. The first one is the rapid technological progress. We see how massive the changes of the structure of economy and social behavior because of the technological progress. And the second one is increasing demand for sustainable developments. I think this is also quite relevant to the topic that we're going to discuss today, this morning, because the increasing demand for sustainable developments also require us to adopt a new kind of new set of rules and regulations, as well as new type of behaviors in the productions, industrial level, as well as on trade, on many other economic aspects. And another issue coming from the increasing rivalry among geopolitical major powers, such as the United States and China, and those two countries, those two economies, basically also increase tensions, not only among them, but also affect the other part of the world, other economies in the globally. And in the short terms, we also even already can see that the increasing military tensions that even came up as the open conflict in several places, such as, for example, in the Middle East or in the in Europe between Russia and Ukraine, and it already disrupt the supply chain. And this year there is also another trend to the global economy, which is will shape the global economy, which is the electoral the so-called electoral super cycle, because it's a big election taking place all over the world. Around 50% of global populations actually vote this year. Some will elect new administration, and then it creates regulatory and policy uncertainty on various areas. We also have seen the emergence of right-leaning governments in Europe, for example, in many Asian countries as well, and now in the United States, the right-leaning governments, right-leaning administrations might take up the more crucial position, perhaps also including in Indonesia, if you know what I mean. That kind of things would also shape the global economic environments. That can also be complemented, associated with the structural slowdown in several economies, including, for example, in China. Uh, uh, Now, the United States basically gave us surprising situations. While during the last 2 years, actually the United States economy, the U.S. economy, have become stronger, have become, and the performance is quite well. So that's why it is quite surprising why the Democrat, their basically represents, fail to take up this kind of opportunity of the stronger and stronger economic environment, stronger economic situations in the United States to get to win the elections last times. But basically, we can discuss about it. But we have also seen that many other countries, many other economies actually are not really in the good shape, or are having some kind of slowdown. So another thing, because we have seen that the increasing tensions in the increasing geopolitical tensions, we have also seen right now security becomes the main narrative. When you're talking about economic issues, security becomes the main narrative. When you're talking about climate change, security becomes a main narrative. When you're talking about industrial development, the security becomes the main narrative. And everything is about security at the moment. It has been going on for quite a while, but the pandemic actually make many economies, many countries realize that security and resilience should become one of their central attention. And so when we're talking about the climate change and sustainability, Felia, for example, many of the narrative has been driven by a security aspect. How the change from the climate can also be adapted, can also be responded to make the economy or to make the nations much more resilient. While in one way it is quite good, but in other ways it is not really appropriate, because if you put everything under the narrative of security, such as the one for the G7 communique, where you can see the security words are mentioned much more during previous years, you think then normally the perspective of defense and military security becomes dominant. becomes nominal. Although it's supposed to be the security can be interpreted in the greater perceptions or greater a greater interpretation, but that's often do not really come up. And and it has affected the economy since the geopolitical tensions have elevated risks to supply chain of important commodities. Like for example, the conflict in the Middle East, where some conflicts actually happened, took place in the Red Sea. It also already give a lot of tensions to the Suez Canal and also transportation price. The Suez Canal traffic dropped down a lot, while the freight index or the index of price of transportation, sea ocean transportation, increased several times already, and it's going on right now since the geopolitical tensions also have been. It's not really loosening; it's even worsening at the moment. So basically, what we do have at the moment, we can say it as the reversal of globalization. During the last few years, we have seen this kind of trends more obviously. Although it actually not a new phenomena. It started after the global financial crisis, what took place already 15 years ago. But recently, it becomes the reversal of globalization becomes much more prominent and much more obvious. It is indicated by lower international trade and investments, as you can see, as you can see in uh, the the graph on the left. You can see that the elasticity of import growth relative to GDP growth dropped quite significantly during the last 15 years. It is also intensified by geopolitical situation and COVID pandemic. You can basic. There are three indicators of this reversal of globalization. The first one is the rise of protectionism and industrial policy in terms of tariff. Not on it started by the United States in the 2018. But right now, protectionism has become globally widespread. It's not only about the United States, it's not only about China, but it's all over the world, including also in Indonesia. And there is also another trend of weaponizations of economic policy, where economic policy has become the main one of our instrument to punish your partners if they are not really in lines with your interests, their national interests. It started by Trump in 2018, but right now it becomes a normal rules for many countries and economies to use economic policy as a weapon. And it is also complemented by the diversification narrative and relocation of trade and production, especially from China, because China is considered to be because the global economy was considered to be too concentrated, and the concentration actually fell into China, and now many wants to be more diversified and try to reallocate their trade and productions to other countries. And basically, the people, those trend, these trends actually started by President Trump in his first presidency, from 2016 to 2018. So we can see what happens actually. We don't need to guess. We don't need to guess too far. What happens to the global economy during the next Trump 2.0, because Trump 2.0 would copy himself, his own policy, his previous own policy, and perhaps also come up with a new approach to make it even stronger, to make it even more impactful to the economic, to the global economy. So the Trump basically used this kind of approach during the first period of his presidency, and also he might still use this kind of period during the next during his next presidency. The first one is isolationist approach, characterized by unilateral actions and strong focus on prioritizing U.S. domestic interests, both economic and political. U.S. has been the so-called global sheriff for the last 80 years, but isolationist approach would take that kind of rule. So the question is, are we ready not having the global sheriff? Although we always talk about U.S. hegemony, but in the end, actually, we still need that kind of global police and global sheriff. Are we ready to have situations where a global sheriff no longer wants to do their job, to do his job? Wow, that kind of question perhaps can be answered by Pak Rifki Muna as a geopolitical analyst. And also bilateral and unilateral approach. Trump tends to be more transactionist in their approach. The U.S. also, like for example, during the first period of Trump, Indonesia was asked to clarify a list of questions, and also to provide some concessions to the United States in return to the extensions of GSP facility. GSP facilities basically provide Indonesia with a kind of like tariff exemption to several products. But for Trump, it is an instrument to get some concession from Indonesia. So this kind of transactional approach might be even more prominent in the future during the Trump 2.0. And also less global engagement, including also globally the U.S. commitments on several important issues such as climate change, for example, climate actions, as well as climate finance. So we also need to respond appropriately. We don't need to depend on various the U.S. commitment. U.S. still quite important, but I think Indonesia, as well as many other countries, including the global south that Pak Rifki Muna mentions, need to walk hand in hand to respond appropriately. Protectionist measures, I don't think I need to stress on those issues, because it has been discussed several times that Trump would increase tariff by 60% to China and 10% to other countries as well. And of course, make America great first approach, they make America great again by lowering taxes and subsidies. It would also it would also bring some impact to the global financial situations, global financial market, which is currently still in the transition, still in the recovery period from the last pandemic, as well as the last year or 2 years ago, last 2 years financial, so-called financial small crisis. So let me talk a little bit. We are currently conducting a study at CSIS, trying to look at, to simulate what kind of impact of the Trump policy to global economy and also especially to Indonesia. But I thought I already I'm ready to present it to you today. But unfortunately, the result still need to be discussed, need to be uh, uh, perfected. So I only can show you our simulation and our studies on the impact of trade war in 2018. Basically, some issues here because the effect on Indonesia economy perhaps it's not really that much as was when we're talking about the direct effect because the Indonesian economy seems to be less integrated to the global economy. It might be, it might not really favorable during boom time, during expansion time, because Indonesia lost a lot of momentum. But during the crisis times, Indonesia is protected by that kind of by that situations because it's less integrated to the economy. Um, but we also have to look at the indirect impact of tariff policy to China, especially from the value-added trade. Like for example, if China's export to the U.S. Is subject to 60% of tariff, then at least around 1% of that export contain value added or imported product from Indonesia. So it's quite that's one way to look at it. Like this is for examples from the export of right now export of China to to the US perhaps around 250 million or 300 million billion US dollar. 300 billion US dollar as around 5.5% actually comes from China, coming from China as the value added being embedded, being integrated into Chinese production or Chinese export. Around 65% of those 300 billion US dollars actually came from Indonesia. So it's quite significant, especially when you look at it from Indonesian perspective. 10% of Indonesian export to China is being re-exported to the US. So that might also bring some significant implications to Indonesia. This is still the number in 2018. Right now, perhaps it's getting even bigger because most of the Indonesian export to China becomes a very crucial instrument, crucial element of the Chinese export at the moment, including the one to the United States. And of course, we don't want to have a trade war as already happenings before, because if that the effect on trade or across the board trade war would be devastating, not only to the global economy but also including also to these regions in Southeast Asia and also to the Indonesia. And when we're looking at the the one that I presented before was from our study on the simulations of the trade war. It's a ex ante analysis, but if when we're looking at the situation in 2017 and 2019, we have also seen similar patterns when the result of first Trump period actually is was quite devastating to trade as well as investments. And If that kind of things also happens in the second period of President Trump, we will see that the Indonesia's aspirations to become higher income country, high income countries in 2040 would be more difficult. Our the Pak Prabowo's target to reach 8% growth would become more and more uh, impossible to reach because the investment is declining, and the competitions of these global investments becomes much more severe. Indonesia needs to take a lot of effort in order to get more investments from the global situations. I also would like to present you some indication from the from economic intelligence analysis unit, yeah, with Indonesia seem to be the, to be less exposed to Trump actually, but it can also be affected quite significantly, especially when we're talking about regional stability on regional stability that would be affected by the U.S. Strategy, U.S. priorities over the U.S. priorities over the domestic over the international one. What kind of response Indonesia should have? I think I just want to say a little bit on that because Indonesia basically failed to take advantage from spillover effects of the U.S.-China trade war. The 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 uh, uh, the first Trump period, although it was quite devastating, it also opened up opportunities for some economies to get the, like for example, the relocation from China, both in what you call this, both in investment as well as on trade. But Indonesia at that time failed to take that kind of opportunity. Vietnam, for example, during 2 years of a trade war started in 2018, managed to increase their exports to the United States by 70%. While Indonesia, unfortunately, even have a drop in its export to the United States because of the GSP facility problem. So basically, we have difficulties in taking advantage of this spillover effect, mostly due to unsuitable production structure. We also have low integrations into global supply chain and uncertain business environment. Uh, uh, but Indonesia is trying to use its natural resources and the size of market as a leverage, but with more protective measures by reducing import, for example, local content requirements, and downstreaming strategy. Although, in my opinion, those strategies, there are more protective measures that Indonesia have been doing, is not really effective. In my opinion, Indonesia should take more a collaborative approach. Why? Because Indonesia, the Cold War 2.0, I always call this kind of situations as a Cold War 2.0 to refer to the first to the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union in the pre-1990s. Right now, we are in the middle of Cold War 2.0, where the situation is there is a big rivalry between major countries, major economies, especially between the United States and China, and of course we cannot let these kind of things happen because the last times we do have trade wars almost 100 years ago in the 1930s we end up in the real wars. World War II. This is a famous Kindleberger spiral where you can see how trade becoming less and less during the next few years of the Great Depressions, as well as trade wars started in the 1930s. And you see, in 1939, it ended up as a very a big open war that already changed the face of the world at that time. Of course, it is tempting to for Indonesia as well as to Southeast Asian countries to follow the course of protectionisms, but the benefit is bigger when they are actually pursuing for more greater integration. Indonesia might take leadership to strengthen regional cooperations and also actively improving global rules-based systems. This we still need these global rules-based systems. We cannot tackle all those challenges such as climate actions if we don't have these global rules-based systems. Because individual countries would do whatever they want, would set up their policy unilaterally without having discussions with others, without having some kind of um, directions and guidelines for their policy. But of course, for Indonesia, it needs to be complemented also by domestic economic reform, such as, for example, the accession to OECD as one of the catalysts for economic reform. Because in order to be the member of OECD, Indonesia really need to take very substantial domestic reform. And Indonesia still need to improve our own connectivity in order to carry out and then to take advantage to the current situations as well as to President Trump strategy. With that, I end up my presentations. Pak Muna, thank you very much for the times again. I'm happy to discuss it further.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Jose Rizal Damuri, for his presentations. It's actually, well, many things already said by him to address this Trump 2.0. Interestingly, we have had all of the world, we have experience of Trump 2.1, sorry, 0.1, meaning that what will happen or what Trump will do is basically predictable. So it is not matter of unknown, but it is something like the known of known, meaning because we know already what Trump will do, and importantly is for how the world, how many countries, how global south, to include Indonesia, to prepare to respond the possible policies by Donald Trump, which has already basically identified. We know already where will be the directions, So the question is again, are we really ready? So thank you for that. And now I would like to invite for our next speakers, Miss Felia Salim. I would like to shortly introduce her. Ms. Felia Salim has 30 years experience in finance and banking, also and encompassing the governance, the ASG, sustainability, climate and energy transitions, and with special attention in food system transformation and also on healthy planet, And she also holds several positions. Currently, she is the senior advisor for the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. She is also the board member of the Indonesia Australia Center, senior advisor at Oliver Wyman, and board member of the Climate and Land Use Alliance. Well, she still holds many other positions. So it's going to be too long if I read one by one. It's actually I take from her LinkedIn. So well, she also not only banker. She is very rare person basically. She is professional bankers, but she also social activist and political activist as well. So doing many things, the NGOs, she also set up foundation called FIFA Foundations, and which also I partly involved with inside. So I think it is very honored for us, to have her. And we give applause to Ms. Felia Salim for her time. Time is up.
Thank you for the introduction. Apologies for the, I think it's Faculty of Economics and Business, but also Faculty of Social Sciences. Pak Philip, sama Ibu Dian Masita, Pak Rizky yang kita sama-sama di Aceh. We were in Aceh recently. Happy to share the platform with you, Pak Yose. I was supposed to speak first, but then I was saying, let's hear about the geopolitics first, because that really will, or will not, I don't know, determine how I do the risk analysis. So this will give me more ammunition to. And it really cuts by 30 days or something. I read somewhere, which is like immense. So that's another angle that needs to be, analyzed, the impact of China. That's the way they're conducting their business. Very quiet, and all of a sudden they have a huge port somewhere. So I've been asked to talk about Trump is back and its impact on sustainability. Obviously, there are two major disruptors in the world today, which is climate and technology. But for the purpose of today's discussion, we're going to limit to the impact on sustainability as was requested. So this was the terms of reference that I was given. The future envisages environmental problems and financial initiatives during Trump's administration, and what is its global impact? So there are three main questions. How will Trump's new administration, or Trump 2.0, address the climate change, biodiversity, planetary boundaries? And so I kind of revisit that question, and now I was breaking it down into what can he do to reverse climate policies, or that which he cannot, and let's look at some uncertainties as a result of that. And then how will financial institutions anticipate potential new policies from Trump? It's no surprise. It's Trump 1.0 on steroids, I think. Trump 2.0. He's just going to go for it more aggressively. So, of course, the impact on environmental and social issues, which is the ESG. Let's look at the potential global trends for sustainable finance. Basically, the global financial industry, which is the sustainable finance update. So these were the three questions. And wait, sorry. Okay. So bear with me. I tried to make it a shorter version, but it come out still a few too many slides. But I thought since you are doing your graduate or PhD, you might find these slides perhaps, hopefully, useful. So now that Trump has won with a significant landslide and he's dominating the two houses, he's really now going to abandon, as you know, he promised, abandon the climate agreement. But not only that, he's just going to completely drop off from not use the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework for Climate Change. He's just not going to go for it. And the energy minister is confirmed, right? He's an oil and gas man. I mean, obviously that signals where the Trump administration looks at it. So at the Washington Post, I don't have to go through the list, but the 12 big changes that could make climate and environmental policy, you just name it, undoing all that is been done by Biden, and reducing the financing that was allocated by Biden. But let's look at some of the realities. And I'm putting a side note here that, look, is he really giving hand over the climate leadership to China? Let's observe what China is doing. Let's observe what India is doing, and let's observe the recent narratives that came out of Pak Prabowo and Pak Hashim during Baku, G20, APEC. They seem to be committed to the climate agenda. So let's look at this. Very interesting. How able is is Trump undoing the two major acts that's extremely important? Specifically the U.S. International Development Financial Corporation, which is a significant amount, and that's already in progress, and also the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't want to go into detail, but I think there's enough explanation about that. That the Inflation Reduction Act is a significant allocation for renewable energy investment, and if you look carefully, the ones benefiting from it is really the Republican states. So is he going to undo that? Not necessarily, but I think he's, as I said in the beginning, that oil and gas, he's going to go for it. But my question is this: then there are other data that suggests, look, the U.S. has, with its innovation, with hydraulic fracking, they have the production has increased since 2008 up to today. The numbers from 2008 and 2022 at 2020 is like an upshoot. So how much that would add to the production? Perhaps the market will react to it that oil prices will go down, right? And if oil prices go down, Indonesia tend to benefit because we're net importers. But that said, and this is where, Yose, you can provide us with your assessment. Trump may have other reasons for keeping low oil prices down. Maybe geopolitical reasons. I remember when Bush Senior, the Kuwaitis were stealing, so to speak, oil from Iraq, and flooding the oil market. Oil price went down, so that created instability, obviously, where the Middle East were largely dependent on oil revenues. and they were keeping oil prices down. So I don't know, that needs to be further analyzed. Now, so as I was saying, rolling back clean energy policies may be he might be less successful, contrary to the doom and gloom that I've been reading. But when I look at it more closely, maybe it's not that easy to undo all that is in place. It's because there is already a healthy renewable energy sector in the US and largely in the global north. And not only that, it's because it is a low interest rate environment and low risk environment. That's why it was able to flourish, renewable, solar and wind. And remember, China is now the largest producer of solar panels. So cost has relatively gone down. And the market is established. So it's quite competitive with the oil and gas. So we just need to look at the numbers and not look at the doom and gloom of Trump 2.0. I'm not sure he has that that he can go against market dynamics, right? And then also there's the IRA tax credit to consumers to buy electric vehicles has been positive, and then but with Elon Musk close, would Trump be tweaking this policy going forward? Maybe not, right? No. So it's inconclusive that it's all doom and gloom with Trump 2.0, you know. Yeah. So the market has been benefiting, and I would like to point out, and just to make it relevant for us, renewable energy has been, on the up and up in low interest rate environment and low risk countries. But that is not necessarily the case for Africa. Some countries are still above 20%. And Indonesia is like medium high, right? We are in the tens in the interest rate. So we face challenges in developing our renewable energy. But nevertheless, impact of withdrawal from the Paris Agreement and regulatory uncertainty is likely to slow the pace of investment. There's uncertainty, of course. The expected inflationary impact of the economic policies, there you go, imposing tariffs, obviously, is likely to negate the benefits of lower cost of capital. On one hand, there's lower cost of capital on renewable, renewable energy sector, but the imposition of tariffs that he promised he will impose, that is, the positive impact has been lower. In fact, people are talking and getting ready for a weakening economic growth. Yeah. So, and plus another point, in fact, we are actually not meeting the target, the 2030 target of 1.5 degrees of the Paris Agreement. The NDC had of countries allocated for their targets. No country has met the target. So, in fact, this year has been recorded to be the hottest. It's already hit the 1.5 degrees. So there you are. The NGOs, there's a latest Greenpeace analysis on Trump 2.0. The youth all around the globe. There's I suppose some existential crisis, not only because of the geopolitics in the Middle East. So now and more than ever, that's why the push for climate is still going to be there. I'm not sure. I showed you the economic rationale, the numbers, but also the NGOs, the global movement. So while U.S. is abandoning the UN, however, more than ever, I think most countries from global south would prefer to keep it intact. it's a platform for to continue the push. The news from Baku just today, it was less to be desired. It's only 300 billion a year coming from the wealth of the global north, but it doesn't come as a surprise. This has been a challenge. So financing is a challenge, and Trump is also scaling down the support of from Biden administration to help develop renewable energy sectors in the global south, right? However, we can also observe, and I've seen this coming from centers in Switzerland, in the US, both in East Coast and West Coast. There are philanthropists, the big names like the Ballmers, the Bezos. They're all coming up with supporting the climate finance space. And this is where the interesting part takes place. Of course, they're not as big as governments, but if we reach a point where it makes economic sense, I think it's just going to be a lot bigger. The financing from high net worth individuals all around the world. Yeah. So let's look at the net zero target setting. That's another point that I would like to show you. Transition to net zero. A lot of the global banks have disclosed that net zero roadmap. So that's already a narrative, and that's already embedded in the market mechanism, right? So, but look at their headwinds and tailwinds. So net, it's a good thing. The climate movement continues to be pushed. I don't have to go into the detail. So, but basically saying, irrespective of what's happening, right? Irrespective of what's happening with Trump 2.0, and perhaps the geopolitics hasn't landed yet as to how much of a disruption is the tension in the Middle East, the potential tension in South China Sea. That is yet to be determined, but market mechanism is very strong because now the numbers are showing some profitability. So, and let's look at somewhere closer to our region. Climate change is driving material physical effects and transition efforts. Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, they all have strong policies and to contribute to the push of climate. So this is already, and that's somewhat irreversible, right? So how will financial institutions anticipate? Let's look at the financial sector, which incorporates the ESG. And Oliver Wyman has done kind of like an honest appraisal with its client base of business, and looking into they're interested in embedding, mainstreaming the ESG into their business and operating model, environmental and social governance. Yeah. So this will help set priorities. So businesses is also gearing up to transition their business model, right? They're looking at the impact, risk management, and obviously commercial opportunities. But I mean, if you're looking at only looking at the bottom line, now they're not only looking at the bottom line. They're starting to mainstream that it's environmentally sound and socially just within the business model, right? Okay, there's been recently some greenwashing that still occurs, but people are getting smarter. Yeah. So the key message today: you can't afford further delays, right? The market has to move irrespective of Trump 2.0, burning platforms, floods, storms. We all see that almost every other day in the news, and this is major implications to market. So markets will adjust. The finance and banking will adjust how they look at the risk perspective, how the insurance industry is also, aligning. But at the end of the day, you know that the most affected, of course, are communities, the poor, are the hardest hit. And this is where the S part is from environmental social governance. How do you incorporate that? You incorporate that by looking at if you're a palm oil, you look at the supply chain model that affects the smallholders as part of the whole supply chain. That's how you start transitioning and fixing and a multi-stakeholder approach to a better run palm oil or other commodities. Yeah. So very quickly, we can observe impact of climate risk that have changed behaviors, right? So basically, Trump 2.0 really cannot ignore these facts, because at the end of the day, it's really country by country who's really experiencing at the national level. The physical risk, transition risk, and various other risks that I will not go into great detail. So the financial sector response to environment, we're looking at the mega trends. It's within the aspects of environment, society, the governance aspect, the geopolitics, the economy, the impact on the economy, and technology. These are all being analyzed at the global, regional, and national. Okay. Now, on the financial sector, this is also what's developing, right? There's traditional investing, responsible investing. This is all the movement over the past couple of decades. Sustainable investing and impact investing, right? This is all now growing at an accelerated space. And what are the sectors that is being, what the market is already investing in? The green economy, renewable energy, looking at, of course, logically, energy efficiency, sustainable agriculture, food systems falls into that, and how to green the manufacturing sector, the green industries. Carbon market is on the rise, and real estates, obviously, and green technology. The green technology is very interesting because today what people are looking at, because so much work has been done, but we've still not met our target. So what it is? So now people are putting their money in innovation in technology to find solutions for the climate change. For certain, on the energy efficiency space, a lot of the AI that's already in place in many sectors. Now, look at it's both the non-regulatory angles, that is the multi-stakeholders, that is it's not just the big businesses at the boardrooms, but also customers, employees, the suppliers, the investors, policymakers, and society, NGOs. All of this now has part of the global movement of pushing it in the right direction. So I'd like to say that Trump 2.0 cannot reverse all these movement from non-regulatory angles. And of course, on the large corp, the regulatory requirements is obviously the previous slide was non-regulatory, and this is regulatory. Finance is a highly regulated, and how to we have the ASEAN scorecard. Indonesia now has a scorecard, and Europe has the EUDR. There's so many criteria, tools that is coming out there, standards coming out there. There's so much going on that it's quite mind-boggling. So the market is really starting to looking for a standardization of how to push this forward, right? So, and you see, regulatory framework is continued. If you look at it, we've mapped it out. The last 10 years, it's just been going up and up and up on regulation standardizations in looking for the best for the best to support the market mechanism in transparency and disclosure, right? So I want to show just 2-3 more slides, and these are my last slides. I cannot not but mention something about Indonesia's commitment to net zero. We look at the financing of transition. Now I'm just going to focus on this. We are a medium to high interest rate environment. It's still very challenging. But Prabowo mentioned that he wants to accelerate coal phase out by in 15 years, when our coal power plants is still very young. So it's going to be challenging. The cost of capital is still very high. How are we going to finance that? This is where the sustainable finance needs to look into the blended finance structure, where it's a public and private structure, and looking at financing mechanism, because the difference between fossil fuel and renewables. Renewables, you have to complete the investment upfront, right? It has to be, whereas with coal, well, for the lifetime of the asset. In renewable energy, you have to build it from the start. So that's the upfront cost is high, the upfront risk is high. Who's going to pay for that transition? This has always been the problem, and this is what's being discussed at the COP. But 300 billion per year is not going to make it. So we have to find innovative ways how to make, for example, to make our Indonesia's liquidity more long-term, right? How do we reduce our risk premium? How do we reduce our interest rate regime by efficiency, etc.? So we have a lot of work. So we have to do this in parallel. But perhaps the government can set aside, and this is probably quite unpopular, how to reallocate some of the subsidies that goes to coal and allocate it for renewables gradually, right? Carefully and gradually, because at the end of the day, we really need to maintain the principles of just and affordable energy for all. So this is that doing it right, calculating it, and doing a blended approach, partly national capital, guarantee schemes. There's so many innovative ways of doing that. So basically creating a new asset class, right? So these are just some numbers I'm leaving with you on the various sectors. And my last slide here. So the conclusions and some key questions. Trump 2.0 will be met by a lot of uncertainties, especially amongst the global setup UN-related bodies. But I was pointing out, I think the global South has the interest in pushing it, that these conferences continue to take place. But also regional discussions is now also taking place. And this is an interesting observation. Oil and gas sector will be given a boost, but for how long and how effective? Probably it needs to be what China is doing now. It's a two-track. The fossil fuel growth in China is still some 6%, and the last number I saw in August 2024, 6% growth in fossil fuel. But the renewable energy investment is far bigger, and some 20% for solar and wind and then nuclear. They're all growing much faster than the fossil fuel, but it's still two-track, because they're trying to do a balancing act to make sure that the just and affordability is in place. And that's the model that India is using, and perhaps that's what Indonesia is also using. In addition to that, Indonesia is also looking to invest in the carbon capture utilization It's still new, it's still being researched, but that's one way of another way of reducing emissions. Which is more expensive, nuclear, geothermal, or carbon capture? And this is now all being done. It's in the works. So essentially, if one is to do how to decouple from the Trump 2.0 risk, we see regional groupings taking shape. BRIC, ASEAN, Asia Pacific, nature-based solution investment labs between Brazil and Indonesia is taking place. It's out of the radar, out of the media attention, but all of these are being done because at the COPs and funding from the global north is not flowing in. So people are looking at other ways. Participation of Brazil, India, Indonesia in G20 covering climate initiatives. That's another entry point, and is being given a much bigger attention now in the G20s. As I said earlier, China potentially leading in climate transition. That's what it is. China is a major solar producer and continue to innovate. So I think the world is not going to be just one thing. It's going to be FTAs, direct trade agreements country to country, but also when it's useful, it's also multilateral, but more and more smaller scale. And I see this trend happening. It's no longer just talking about, that's what gets the media attention, the huge international discussion. But much is being done at the ASEAN level, at the regional level, at the country to country level. This is the market dynamics because of course, of the inevitability of climate disaster, climate emergency, but also that is now showing signs of finding the right model, which is a blended finance, sustainable finance. A lot of innovation is taking place, and some proof of concepts is now in place. For example, the N Green Fund is managing a successful, profitable, is environmentally sound, and socially just. And I hope this will continue to grow. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ibu Felia Salim, for her presentation. And I think she has been discussed a lot of things, identify what is being called as Trump risk, and I think it is very clear sign for us. And it has been quite very substantial, and all of you already take note and might be preparing for the questions. We have about 12 until 12 o'clock, until 12 o'clock. But before I give you an opportunity to ask the questions, Dr. Jose Rizal will give some additional remarks for maybe 1 minute to 2 minutes or 2.2.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Rifki. Just 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, perhaps. Additional time. So I agree with the book Felia that Trump might not be changing a lot of things because climate actions has been going on, has been underway for quite some times, and it seems that it already take a momentum. But I also would like to give some kind of perhaps kind of warning because this election is not only taking place in the U.S. but also in many other countries. And I mentioned before, there is a tendency of right-leaning administrations would take place, and it already happens in European Union, for example, in several European countries, and it seems that the narrative of climate actions might be a little bit what you call this, berbalik, take a reverse, or take a reverse, but not only reverse, but it also it becomes the victims of its own success, because the climate narrative has become so big, and then many individuals, many corporations, many business in, especially in the developed countries, feel a little bit fed up with that. And I talked to several of friends in the European Union, in the European countries, and they also see things like that. And uh, if this European Union, as one of the biggest champions of the climate actions, also would take uh, uh, a little bit reversal from climate actions, then it might also be another hit, another issue to improve the climate actions in the future, in addition to Trump.
Thanks a lot for the additional. It's very important for us to pay attention. Okay, thank you. Now I would like to ask the audience, the students, the participants, to might be some questions, So please identify yourself clearly from which faculty or program you are coming from. Okay, we'll start from the right side.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Please be very short, yeah?
Yes, my name is Yusha. I'm PhD in political science. I would like to address this question to Pak Yose Rizal. Due to the emergence of advanced technologies, such as the quantum computing, autonomous weapon system, and robotics, which pursued by many states, not only states, it only pursued by many non-state actors like companies and everything, such as prominent IT company like Google, Microsoft, Boston Dynamics, and many defense industry companies like the Turkish Baykar Makina, reflecting to major wars in Ukraine and Russia. Ukrainian drone crushed Russian $2 million man battle tank using their kamikaze drones, which cost much less, only around $20,000. What do you think? Will this phenomena tip the balance of power and might lead to another cycle of arms race? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think we can collect first, yeah? We collect three, okay. The next one is the girl. Yes, please.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. My name is Dea. I'm sustainable finance student, and I will deliver my question to Ms. Felia. Yeah, maybe we already got the information about the what Indonesian respond about the international trade, export and import from Mr. Yose presentation. But how about the foreign capital? Because in his previous term, Trump drastically reduced the U.S. funding, especially for multilateral peacekeeping, operational, and also maybe UN agencies. And in assumption, maybe he will do the same thing right in now. So what kind of response that Indonesians have should have to do to tackle this issue? Because same in my assumption, Indonesia maybe cannot stand alone to do this project, especially for the sustainability project. Thank you.
Next question. Yes,
Thank you. This question is addressed to Ibu Felia. I'm Alice Nurhayati from MPP, Master in Public Policy, specializing in climate change here at UIII. Before my question, thank you for the comprehensive presentation. Bu, I wanted to solicit your advice on Indonesia's policy. In his address, the President's special envoy for climate change, who is also the head of delegate of Indonesia to the COP29, Pak Hashim, said that Indonesia will continue to develop its economy with 8% as the target, right? Nothing wrong about that. Indonesia, as an emerging economy, has all the rights to do so, but it looks like that it will be at the expense of environment, and it's always be the development paradigm that is being used by Indonesian government, and it looks like that it's a trade-off whether to pursue economy or to protect the environment. While we all know the two can go hand in hand. Unfortunately, Indonesia maybe has needs some support for transfer of technology and some finance. But even without finance, I think we should go ahead with our sustainability programs. As a student in public policy, we yearn to have this silver bullet to advise our government, like how to abandon the long held conviction that development and sustainability is always trade-off, and to convince that and to kick that bad habit is so difficult. Sorry if this question is too broad, but we are still struggling with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we will start with these three questions first, and then we'll continue later. We still have time. Since most of questions is directed to Ibu Felia, so yeah, and more. Okay, so yeah, time to use. What's your response?
The sustainability, yeah. Okay. How do we get the financing? Basically, you're asking when Trump is cutting down, right? But the point that I was trying to make here is, look, Trump will cut down, but U.S. is not the only one that's supporting. We still have good relations with other countries, like providing, like the Norwegians' national capital is forthcoming and under discussion. The likes of the different and coming through different initiatives like the Global Energy Alliance. And I was pointing out that the likes of Bezos, IKEA, and Rockefeller forming a big initiative and providing support, technical as well as financing. These may be just not significant number of FDIs, but when we're talking about linking it to sustainability, it's exactly what needs to take place. I was showing to you the evolution from responsible investing to all the way to impact investment, which is, the area of sustainable finance. There's a lot of good examples that is actually happening. It's still small, but it has the potential to grow because market dynamics is pushing it in that direction. So that's one area. The other area is the biggest challenge now is how to be innovative in the financial sector. it's just going to get too technical. There's green bonds, there's green covered bonds, long term. There's a lot of innovation that's taking place as an alternative to national capital that is not forthcoming from the global north. That's why I was also pointing out, if we can be more efficient and smarter, and managing our subsidies much more effectively and directed to the right person, but also to support transitions into the bioeconomy or green economy. Do we have that capability? There's so many ideas out there, proposals. Of course, the hurdle with Indonesia is the FDIs. Why is it not coming? It's the same old story. It's the legal certainty. It's the bottlenecks in bureaucracy. All of these are already identifiable problems, and from what I understand, our government is going to be serious on climbing down. How? He's just been back. This is also, we're all waiting, and the past 10 more years we've been engaged with local governance, bureaucratic reform, judicial reform. It was doing well until it wasn't, and there's some reversal because of politics. So this has nothing to do with actual economic rationale. That is quite possible, but we just have to fix all the other non-economical aspects. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a classic case of why we're not having enough FDIs. Our trade policy is not as competitive as our neighbors. Just simply put, Singapore has a much better tax environment. Vietnam was able to capitalize on the US-China war, and it adjusted its policy smartly, and the manufacturing sector came all the way to. So I think we have some smart people in the bureaucracy today, but how effective are they going to be? We'll have to see. I just read this morning, our leadership today is, what is it? They say it's maybe this is where democracy, the discussion on democracy takes place. Are we moving, left of right of center as well? Is that a good thing or a bad thing for climate? If a right of center means abandoning climate, then it's a bad thing, like Bolsonaro, for example. During Bolsonaro, who was ultra right of center, he was just deforesting the Amazon like never before. So I don't think we're in that stage. If you look at the narrative that's coming out from Pak Hashim in Baku, and also Pak Prabowo's discussion in APEC, but how he's going to resolve the corruption issues, that he says, stop stealing from our budget, which is about the leakages like 30-40%, of which maybe could help fuel that 8% growth. Right now we're still wondering. He's coming back to Indonesia and has some MOUs for the amount of 258 billion. Is that enough? It's not, but it's a start. But how for it to be executed? It's the legal certainty. Is the get rid of the bureaucratic bottlenecks. That was the campaign promise of the previous government, and it happened only in the first term. It didn't in the second term. So we'll see. I don't have the crystal ball on that. but I'm quite hopeful. And the second question was apa ya yang tadi ya? Yang ada 8% tadi itu. Ya, 8% itu, there's no silver bullet, obviously, unfortunately. But this is where we have to get rid of this thinking of dichotomy. Is sustainability is considered expensive, but it's only because our model has never incorporated the cost of environmental destruction, the cost of health to people. That's not in the business model. Actually, that ought to be in the business model, but it isn't yet. That's why, who is paying for that? Governments are paying for that. As I was saying, taking up the upfront risk, developing catalytic funds to take up that upfront risk, finding innovative financing to take up that upfront risk, incorporating the whole ESG within that business model. Hopefully, the good business would mean that you really incorporate ESG within your business model, mainstreaming it, right? There's a study, as you know, let's say the whole food system, the food and loss is tremendous. The waste from farm to table, the amount of waste is tremendous. When people are hungry, actually the amount of waste can actually feed not only the hungry people, but also generate energy. So there's so many innovation that is actually very, quite rational and doesn't need high-tech thinking. It's just that we businesses never had to think about those things. This is the unintended consequence of old business model. So, yeah. Yeah. Yes, it is quite possible that we have been talking about potential, right? We've been on autopilot and we grow 5%. So if we're smarter and we can really, be strategic, 8% is possible within the next 3-4 years if those necessary conditions we can put in place. The whole ecosystem to support a higher than 5% growth. 8%, I don't know, but definitely higher than 5-6% is quite possible.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to turn to Yose. Okay.
Well, there are some questions. I think on the capital issues. Yeah, capital issues. For the lady first. On the capital impact. Impact on the capitals. I think you have to differentiate first between the aid and development programs when with the investment, foreign direct investments. So for the foreign direct investments, the impact is very big during the first Trump period. A lot of investments is no longer the decline is in investment is quite significant, and we will expect that kind of things again. That's why I mentioned during my presentations the Indonesia's aspirations to actually achieve a higher growth would be quite difficult because the investments available in the global economy is also quite limited at the moment. Would be even stricter in the future. That's why Indonesia needs to take a more proactive approach, including also to do some kind of reforms. But there is also the infrastructure developments, developments project development financings that might still be available. Regardless the foreign direct investments would decline or not. So we still also need to look at that kind of opportunity, including also the one that Ibu Felia also already mentions about the development financings related to the climate actions that might still be around. But on this climate financing, I also need to take this opportunity to say that during the G20 last times, several days ago, there is also one quite important point that has been raised in the G20 leader statement, which is the willingness of developing countries to take up climate financing agenda as part of climate financing agenda. Why it is important? Because currently we do have a framework of thinking for the climate actions to put all the necessary burdens to the developed countries. Only the developed countries that has the responsibility to contribute to the climate financing. That's why in 2009, for example, the G20 at that time and UNFCCC as well put the agenda of 100 billion US dollar for developed countries to contribute for climate action. Never developing countries is mentioned in that case. But in G20, actually, there is one very small sentences that mentions about the developing countries' voluntary contribution. Is this still voluntary contributions and never and didn't mention anything about the amount? But I think it is a good way for the developing countries to show the kind of like what you call this the a willingness to take greater part in for financing the climate actions. Because well, currently even Indonesia also or India still see themselves as a recipient end, not and all the responsibility should come from the developed countries. The narrative of global south and global north also it's not productive in my opinion, because it says that the global north have to take responsibility while the global south receive all those kind of grants, all those kind of um, uh, aids from the global north. It has to be under the all collaborative approach from all those developed and developing countries as well. On the arms race, I don't have any answer for that. Let Pak Rifki Muna perhaps answer it because I'm not really following the issues at the moment. But of course, technology would be used more prevalently in the arms race, but there is more than just open war, open conflict of the use of technology. We have also seen how the technology already has been used for misinformation or disinformation that affect the political landscape of the countries and have been also used for many other fraud and crimes actions. We also need to deal with how to govern the technological progress, including also artificial intelligence.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. So, Ibu Felia would like to add very short on to respond some of the questions that she feel need to be addressed regarding to the issues of growth 80%, but what about the financing and so on and so on. Please.
Look, before we try to attract foreign direct investment, we have actually fix up our put our house in order and stop the leakages. That could unleash a lot of the bottlenecks and a lot of the potential at the ground level. Remember, Indonesia is more than 90% is SMEs, and they don't need a hell of a lot of money, but that would generate a lot of the growth in the economy. Imagine we've always had this bottleneck, and we were growing 5%. So in fixing the basics, I think we can grow an extra percentage. That's my point. And if we can obviously fix more legal certainty, that's where the foreign direct investment can enter. Yeah, I see two more hands. Maybe
Well, there are still many questions, but our time is getting it's already past 12 past, and then we plan to finalize by okay, just something different, just one question, please. Okay, who's that? Okay, you first. Okay, that's just one question, and then very quick, please.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Abdul Basid. I am student of sustainable finance, and my question that how term plan to reduce rules and regulation that might affect industries like renewable energy and electric car, because it's so helpful for sustainability and also play a key role in environment. So, but before in his previous terms, he support fossil fuels and also remove some environmental protection. So it seemed like Trump is in favor of the fossil fuels and traditional energy as or sustainable sustainability effort and renewable energy. So I want to know your opinion that it would be more and more harder and difficult for green and clean energy to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You will make a question. Okay, that's dangerous if we don't give him time, That's very quick, sir.
Saying this thing will offer. No, I have my phrases. From China and what's in three reasons. One of the reasons is that because we are like in the rule and regulation of global rule and regulation based system. That is one of the reasons. I'm asking you if you would rate, or if you would grade in which level we are in terms of our global rule regulation based system from 1 to 10. Could you please? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Felia first for that.
Yeah.
Issues of corruptions maybe, yeah.
I don't know if I understood correctly, but you were asking about regulation, how to support the renewable energy versus fossil fuel. Look, I cited the approach that China is taking. It's two-track. They're still growing in the fossil fuel, but it's growing at a lesser pace compared to the renewable energy. That model, I think, is India is also adopting. Because at the end of the day, all of us, the developing nations and middle power, or look, China is doing great, but they still have a lot of poor people. So, and just and affordability is still key. These two principles we are guided by. So, in Indonesia, our coal-fired power plant are still young. We cannot close it down overnight, and it's still the cheapest form of energy generation. But renewable energy, it's not yet. It's still at an infant stage in Indonesia. In China and India, it's a little bit far more advanced. But this is where we need to We need to push forward in supporting, and the support, as I said, the challenge for high interest income or medium to high interest income countries like us, making the cost of capital more expensive. This is where we need to find the right financing scheme, the right guarantee scheme in order to take up the upfront risk, so that becoming a catalyst for the private sector, the FDIs, to participate in. So there is a working model. We just have to get on with it. So it's still a two-track approach. It cannot be either or. It has to be both. And how to manage it smartly, how to manage our fiscal space more smartly. But I wanted to, to just answer this more about the humanity, about the arms race. Look, we could have obliterated this planet many times over with nuclear power, and we haven't done that yet. So in terms of arms race, it's going to happen, space race, what have you. But are we going to destroy the planet? Well, we could have done that, decades ago, but it hasn't happened. So let's hope that we still have human solidarity should be still in place. But and on human solidarity, look, the impact of climate is also the migration. Europe is strained because of the migration from Africa to Western Europe. Latin American countries, South American countries, migration to the north, to US, because they're looking for jobs, right? So the flow is not going to stop. So this is where the global north, who doesn't want to pay, they're going to have to pay one way or other, because the migration is happening, right? The social cost is high, and how many boats you want to sink without a public outcry. So I thought I just wanted to add that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ibu Felia. And I think we have to conclude.
Pak Haider, maybe. One response. It's not about not about the rules itself, but how the economy has been integrated into the global economy, and Indonesia has very low integration.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out something very, very quickly. Look, integrate the global, consensus. The COPs will still continue, but what I'm seeing now is more at the more regional, country to country, organizations to organizations, and it's a way of decoupling from the global north. Yes, taking charge of our own problems. I think that's happening. That's what I observe amongst southern governments like Brazil, Indonesia. There's a lot of cooperation. Indonesia and South Africa in energy transit. There's a lot of cooperation. So this is taking shape right now.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So basically, we are facing, of course, there are new challenges under the Donald Trump 2.0, but those challenges actually, we know it already what will happen. And the questions is the levels of readiness that do all of countries willing to respond into that incoming leadership in the United States, especially when we are discussing about issues of sustainability, and as the final point that Ibu Felia just mentions, that basically levels of solidarities and cooperation at lower levels, besides there is high tensions at the geopolitical aspect of conflict, sustainability issues, and so on and so forth. But cooperation at the lower level is very much useful in increasing the sustainabilities for the many countries, and thank you very much for Pak Yose and also Ibu Felia as well. Pak Yose was asking me to respond on the issues of geopolitics and so on, but I didn't task to give an answer for this. So we have a coffee and have another discussion. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I would like again to thank to all of our two distinguished speakers, which is very dear supporters of us, Ibu Felia Salim as well as Pak Jose Rizal Damuri, and thank you again for participating with us, and thank you for all of the participants who already come to this forum. Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Now we will move to the next agenda, giving token of appreciation from UIII. I would like to invite Professor Dian Mashita and Bapak Dr. Philip J. Vermonte for giving token of appreciation to the speakers. And then Bapak Dr. Philip. All participants, please stay. We will have photo session with the speaker. We will have photo session. All participants, please come to front side if you want to take photos. Please gather. Let's come together.
Okay, guys. It's one position. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Angle, 1, 2, 3. Okay. We can find anything you want. And now 1, 2, 3. You got one more thing. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you for your participation. See you on the next agenda.
Yeah, actually, I